Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Thank you guys for tuning in. Today I wanted to talk about the Minnesota Timberwolves and something that's been going on in our organization for way too long and nobody has actually addressed it, and I feel we need to talk about it. But before we get into that, I just want to make sure that you guys like, comment, and subscribe. I really appreciate all the positive feedback I get from you guys on TikTok and on here. If you came from TikTok, actually, let me know in the comments down below. Yeah, I really appreciate all the love I get from Twitter, TikTok, and here. So we're growing this channel fast, and I know I have you guys to thank for that. And I want to make it into something bigger where we can just come in here and talk about sports. And this is, it's for everybody. So make sure to be polite in the comment section below. Let's jump into this video. So today I wanted to talk about the situation in Minnesota. So in Minnesota there's a situation, right? I've been meaning to talk about this situation for way too long now. It's been way too long, right? So the horrendous situation that's rendered the Minnesota Timberwolves organization stagnant, they're terrible, and they've been terrible for a while now. And I wanted to talk about that. So it's been about 6 years since Karl was drafted by the Minnesota Timberwolves, right? He was drafted in 2015, right? And in those 6 years, Karl has made the playoffs once. He has been named an All-Star 2 times, right? He has managed to establish himself in this league as a star, as someone who's formidable in their skill set, and someone who is to be reckoned with. His peers acknowledge him, the media acknowledges him, and we acknowledge him as a good player in this league. I think that's what comes with being an all-star. So he's proven himself to be all these things, but what he's failed to prove is that he is a winner in this league. He has not won in this league. The only time he has remotely come to being a winner is the 1 year where him and the Minnesota Timberwolves made the playoffs in 2018, or were bounced out by the 2018 Houston Rockets, who, by the way, I have a documentary on. You can click here to check that out. I highly recommend. You won't be disappointed. But anyways, Karl got into the playoffs one time in his career and was bounced out, and that's all he has to show for, and 2 All-Star appearances, right? I think it's time for him to leave, right? As of making of this video, the Minnesota Timberwolves are dead last in the NBA, and it's been that way for way too long. That's been the norm in that organization. They've become complacent, and they've become okay with being terrible. They do not do anything about it. Year after year, they're in a draft lottery, and it needs to change. I think the good people of Minneapolis and the whole state of Minnesota deserve a better NBA team, and I think there's a way to do this. I think in order for this to change, in order for Minnesota to get past this stagnant state that it's in, I think what needs to happen is Karl has to leave. I think the experiment in Minnesota with Karl has run its course, and we've seen the results. And they aren't, they aren't lustrous. They aren't something to be proud of. He needs to leave, and I think it's best for him and the organization. Here's why. Karl is not a leader. Karl is not a leader, and Minnesota needs someone who can lead them into the playoffs or to just win. Karl has proven himself to not be a leader, and the only time Minnesota got a leader, they were able to make the playoffs in 2018 with Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler came in there, kind of shifted and changed that whole culture. The organization was looked at as soft. Jimmy Butler came in there and changed the organization, the culture, with his dog mentality and his toughness, his tough approach to the game. He came in there, and for the 1 year he was there, they made the playoffs. Immediately after he left, they didn't make the playoffs. And he went to Miami, and his methods proved to be worth it. Miami went to the finals, right? So you gotta move off of Karl as an organization if you want to win. And Karl needs to move out of Minnesota in order for his career to progress. Luckily for Karl for Cat, there's someone similar to him that was in a similar position that made it out, right? Anthony Davis and Karl are very similar. They're both centers, both have about the same skill sets, and at one point in their career, they were both trapped in a city that was losing nonstop. That where losing was the culture, right? Anthony Davis was in New Orleans, where he kept losing in and out, and he only ever made the playoffs once in 2015, right? Until he finally demanded a trade. He demanded a trade and he took his butt all the way to Los Angeles, where he just now came off of a championship win. And the organization is arguably better off without him, because not only did they get a bunch of picks back, they got a bunch of good young players back from Los Angeles in Brandon Ingram and Lonzo Ball, and they were also able to recoup their losses and get another number 1 pick in Zion Williamson. And now they're doing well, you know? So both parties succeeded because of who they thought they had to keep left, you know? Anthony Davis succeeded with LeBron, and the New Orleans Pelicans are succeeding now without Anthony Davis. And I think Karl Anthony Towns needs to take a page out of Anthony Davis's playbook and demand a trade and leave. I think if he can play his cards right, I think he can end up in a situation that's really beneficial to him. And that'll be really beneficial to Minnesota, actually, too. I think there's only one spot that I can think of that'll work perfectly for both Minnesota, the organization, and Karl Anthony Towns. Everybody, actually, in this situation will benefit. Both the other team and this spot is Golden State. I think Golden State is the best spot for Karl Anthony Towns to go. Everybody in this situation is set to win if this goes down. Everybody in this trade would win. Minnesota would win, Karl Anthony Towns would win, and Golden State would win. Hear me out. The Golden State Warriors could really use KAT's skill set, right? They need a big center to help complement Steph and Klay in order for them to make a push for the championship. Now, they just got a center in James Wiseman, but the thing is, Steph and Klay are aging and the time is ticking for them. They don't have time to wait around for James Wiseman to develop into a NBA superstar. That's not gonna happen. Time's ticking for them. They need to win right now, right? And Karl Anthony Towns is basically James Wiseman in the future. More skilled, more experienced, and ready to win now. It's a match made in heaven. The Golden State Warriors need one more star in order for them to make that push to regain their title as the best team in the NBA. To be title favorites year in, year out. Just think about it. A roster consisting of Stephen Curry, Klay Thompson, Andrew Wiggins, Draymond Green, and Karl Anthony Towns would be a contender the day it was formed. The day it was formed, they would be the favorites to win next year. And Golden State would win that way, and Karl Anthony Towns would be in a position to compete for a championship. In return, right, the Minnesota Timberwolves would get back James Wiseman, who was the number 2 pick in last year's draft, to complement their own draft pick, who was number 1 last year, Anthony Davis, right? So those are tremendous talents right off the bat, right? Then this year, since Minnesota is terrible and they're projected to get the top 3 pick in this year's draft, they would again get a top 3 pick to complement those already 2 picks from last year, those 2 future stars from last year, right? And not only would they get back James Wiseman, the Golden State Warriors would have to give back their 2022 unprotected pick. Well, it's actually the 2021, it's Minnesota's 2021 pick, right? It's kind of hard to understand how this trade would work, but bear with me. So when D'Angelo Russell was in Golden State, right? The Golden State Warriors sent him to Minnesota in return for Minnesota's 2021 draft pick, first round draft pick, right? It was protected though. What that basically means is this. It was top 3 protected, which means the top 3 picks, number 1, 2, and 3 were protected and would stay with Minnesota if they were in a position to get those picks, right? So let's say Minnesota was projected to, get the 4th pick. That pick would not be Minnesota's anymore, and it would revert to Golden State. But because this year Minnesota is the worst in the league and are projected to go number 1, they are the favorites to get the number 1 pick. That pick instead doesn't go to Golden State, and now still stays with Minnesota, and Golden State, instead of getting that pick in 2021, is deferred to 2022, where it doesn't matter if Minnesota is projected to go to pick number 1, number 2, number 3, of which they most likely will be. It doesn't matter. Golden State would get that pick regardless. But instead, if this trade was to go down, Golden State would give that pick back to Minnesota, right? So what would happen would be this year Minnesota would be able to get their top 3 pick, and then next year again, because most likely Minnesota is gonna be bad again next year, right? Because remember, if they give away their best player, they're most likely to be worse next year. So they're most likely to pick again in a lottery pick. So next year they get to pick number 1, 2, or 3, or whatever else again, right? When the smoke clears up and it's all said and done, Minnesota would get James Wiseman to pair up with Anthony Edwards. That's 2 future stars. And in this year's draft pick, 2021's draft pick, which is most likely going to be number 1, to pair up with those 2 young stars, future stars. And in next year, 2021 draft pick, right? Because they're most likely going to be bad again because they gave away their best player, right? That draft pick, which they get either 1, 2, or 3 to pair up with their other young stars, young future stars. So now they would set themselves up for a really bright future. And what you would do then is trade away D'Angelo Russell for a veteran player who can come and help these young stars that you've drafted come into their own, develop them in order for them to compete for a championship in the future. So you would set yourself up for a really, really bright future. Like, you know what trust the process was in like Philadelphia? This would be like that on steroids. This would be like killing 4 birds with 1 stone. You would get, when it's all said and done, you would get 4 top 3 picks in a span of 3 years. So if I was the Minnesota Timberwolves, I'd pick up the phone right now and I would want to get this deal done immediately. Every party in this deal would benefit. Golden State would get their star right now to pair up with their already 2 stars, Clay and Steph, in order to compete for championships right now. Karl-Anthony Towns would be able to compete for a championship, something he's wanted for a long time. And Minnesota would benefit in the future. Not right now, but in the future. And so I think this deal, or this is something that Minnesota, this is a route that Minnesota can take. I don't know. I'm not necessarily saying this is what's going to happen, but I think this is a solution to the horrendous situation that has gone on for way too long in Minneapolis, and will give the people of Minneapolis a better NBA team to root for. So those are just my thoughts on the situation in Minnesota, and my solution to it, what I think would happen. And obviously, like, that's for the Golden State Warriors, that would be like a lot of money, a lot of cap space. But with them, also, I think they would most likely do this deal because here's my reason why. They just got a new arena, the Chase Center, where they're trying to sell tickets. The owners would most likely be okay with paying the luxury tax if it means filling up that huge new stadium they just got, right? Or if it meant competing for the championships like they used to 2 years ago for a few years to come, for 3-4 years to come. They would be completely fine with it, right? So, and they could just restructure the contracts in order for them to not pay the luxury tax, even though I'm pretty sure they would be okay with paying the luxury tax for it. I don't know if they were paying the luxury tax when Kevin Durant was there, but if Kevin Durant's contract was sufficient there, I have no problem to think that Cat's contract won't be able to work out there. I mean, I just think that's the solution to this problem. Karl-Anthony Towns needs to leave, and the best spot for him to go would be Golden State, and the best spot for Minnesota to trade him would be Golden State. So those are just my thoughts on that. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Do you guys think there's another spot that Karl-Anthony Towns, do you think there's another spot that Karl-Anthony Towns could go to? Do you think this is not the move? Do you think Karl-Anthony Towns needs to stay in Minnesota? Let me know in the comments down below, and make sure to comment, like, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next installment. See you later.